While I stood beside my daughter's casket, my son-in-law posted a beach selfie with his mistress, captioned, "The life I dreamed of." Then a text from an unknown number. "Dad, get me out of here." As I uncovered his plan to flee to Mexico, I realized betrayal runs deeper than grief, and justice will find him. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. 3 days ago, a drunk driver ran a red light. 3 days ago, my daughter Emily stopped breathing in a twisted sedan while paramedics fought to free her. Now, I stood in St. Michael's Church, holding my grandson's trembling hand, staring at the empty seat in the front row. Bernard's seat. Morning light filtered through stained glass, painting colors across the closed casket. The minister's voice rolled over the congregation like distant thunder, but I couldn't hear the words. Only the silence from that empty seat. Only Ethan's small fingers gripping mine so hard his knuckles went white. The boy wore an oversized suit jacket, his father's, I realized with a bitter taste. The sleeves hung past his wrists. He'd rolled them up 3 times before the service. Now he stared straight ahead, tears making silent tracks down his cheeks. I squeezed his hand, tried to telegraph strength through my palm. An 8-year-old shouldn't have to bury his mother. He definitely shouldn't have to wonder why his father vanished. The minister glanced toward the empty seat. Brief, awkward, others noticed too. Whispers rippled through the pews behind us. I felt their eyes on my back, questions forming in the charged air. After the service, they came in waves. Neighbors, Emily's co-workers, distant cousins I'd forgotten existed. They gripped my hands, offered condolences that blurred together. "We're so sorry for your loss. Emily was such a light. She'll be missed terribly." Then, inevitably, "Where's Bernard?" The question came from Mrs. Patterson first, then from Emily's manager, then from my late wife's sister Judith, who cornered me near the reception table with fury blazing in her eyes. "Orval, this is unacceptable." Her voice dropped to an urgent whisper. She clutched a damp tissue in one fist. "What kind of man doesn't attend his own wife's funeral?" I kept my voice level. "The kind I'm about to learn more about." Ethan tugged my sleeve. His face was pale, eyes enormous. "Grandpa, where's Dad? Why isn't he here?" I knelt until we were eye level. The floor was hard against my knees, but I didn't care. "I don't know, buddy, but I promise you, I'll find out." Another neighbor approached as I stood. Mr. Chen from across the street, balancing a paper plate of finger sandwiches. "Orval, we're so sorry. Is Bernard okay? Car trouble?" My smile felt like broken glass. "Something like that. He'll regret missing this." People began talking about lunch. The church emptied slowly. I drove Ethan home in Emily's sedan, the car she'd driven the morning of the accident. He fell asleep before we reached the house. I carried him inside, laid him on his bed still wearing the oversized jacket, then returned downstairs alone. I'd lived in this house for 5 years, ever since my own wife passed. Emily had insisted, said she needed help with Ethan, that the spare room was just sitting empty. Truth was, she'd needed the company, needed someone solid around after Bernard started working late more and more often. The house grew dark around me. I didn't turn on lights, just moved through rooms I knew by heart, touching objects that still held Emily's presence. Her coffee mug in the sink, lipstick stain on the rim. Her jacket draped over the chair where she'd left it 4 days ago, rushing out to her last shift at the clinic. I picked up her phone from the kitchen counter. She'd always been terrible about security, used our family birthdays as the passcode. I unlocked it on the first try. 7 missed calls from Bernard, all from 2 weeks ago. Nothing since. I pulled out my own phone and dialed his number. Straight to voicemail, I hung up, dialed again. Same result. On the 7th attempt, I left a message. "Bernard, it's Orval. Your son needs you. Your wife deserved better. Call me back." I paused, let the silence stretch. "Or don't. Either way, we'll talk soon." My hands stayed steady as I set the phone down. I walked to Emily's home office. The desk lamp cast a circle of yellow light across scattered papers. I opened her laptop, no password, she'd always trusted too much, and began searching. Emails first, then calendar entries, then bank statements. The charges jumped out like accusations. 3 weeks ago, 2 plane tickets to Miami, purchased on Bernard's credit card. Last week, hotel reservation. oceanfront suite. Bernard's name on the confirmation. I scrolled back through Emily's emails, looking for anything that might explain. Found correspondence with her doctor about headaches. Found messages to Judith about Ethan's school project. Found nothing about Miami. Then I switched to Bernard's account. Emily had access. She'd managed their household finances. His inbox was mostly work emails, nothing suspicious. But in his sent folder, buried under mortgage statements and utility bills, I found it. An email to someone named Kimberly. Subject line blank. Sent the day before Emily died. My finger froze over the trackpad. I clicked it open. I woke with my head on the desk, Emily's laptop screen dark. My neck screamed. Dawn light crept through the blinds, painting thin lines across the keyboard. I'd fallen asleep reading Bernard's email to Kimberly. Vague promises about starting fresh and finally being free. Pounding rattled the front door. I pushed up from the chair, joints protesting. Stumbled through the living room. Through the window, I saw Judith on the porch, clutching her phone like a weapon. I opened the door. She pushed past me without greeting. "Orval, you need to see this." Her hands shook as she thrust the phone toward my face. "That monster posted this during the funeral." The screen showed Bernard's Facebook page. The photo was recent, posted yesterday at 2:47 in the afternoon, while I was shaking hands with mourners, while Ethan was asking where his father went. Bernard reclined on a beach chair, tropical drink in hand, sunglasses reflecting blue sky. Beside him, a woman in a white swimsuit smiled at the camera, young, fit, blonde. The caption read, "The life I dreamed of." Something cold settled in my chest. "That's Kimberly Henderson," I said. My voice sounded distant, mechanical. "From 3 houses down." Judith stared at me. "What?" Emily knew. The words came out flat. She told me 6 months ago. Suspected Bernard was seeing someone. Cried in this kitchen, right where you're standing. Said she thought it was the neighbor who taught spin classes at the gym. Judith's face went pale, then flushed red. "That son of... I need your phone." She handed it over. I screenshot the post, emailed it to myself, then opened my laptop. Created a new folder labeled Evidence. Downloaded the image. Saved it 3 different ways. Judith paced the kitchen, tissue pressed to her mouth. "Call the police. He abandoned his son. And tell them what?" I looked up from the screen. That a father took his own child? Legally, Ethan is Bernard's son. I'm just the grandfather. But Ethan needs... My phone buzzed against the desk. Unknown Oregon number, text message. "Dad, get me out of here." My throat closed. Ethan sometimes called me Dad. Had since he was 4 and couldn't quite manage Grandpa. The message was his. Short words, simple punctuation, exactly how he texted. I called the number back. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. Full inbox, couldn't leave a message. I tried again. Same result. "What is it?" Judith leaned over my shoulder. I showed her the screen. "He's using someone else's phone. He's scared." "Then we definitely need to..." "No." I set the phone down carefully. "Not yet." I pulled up Facebook, searched for Kimberly Henderson. Found her profile partially public. Scrolled through her posts. Found photos from weeks ago. Her and Bernard at a restaurant, carefully cropped to look like friends grabbing lunch. Another from a hiking trail, Bernard's hand barely visible at the edge of the frame. Emily wouldn't have seen these. Privacy settings kept them from mutual friends. Then I found her Instagram, more recent. Posted 3 hours ago. Kimberly and Bernard in an airport terminal, rolling suitcases beside them. The caption was in Spanish. "Nuevo comienzo," new beginning. I zoomed in on the airport signage visible behind them. Departure board showed flights to Mexico City. Mexico. I said it aloud, testing the weight of the word. "He's running to Mexico." Judith grabbed the edge of the desk. "He planned this. While Emily was dying, he was planning to run away with that." "Yes." I opened a new browser window, started searching. "He thinks I'm just a grieving old man who'll let this go." "You can't go after them. You can't just..." I looked at her. She stopped talking. "He took my grandson," I said quietly. "He destroyed my daughter while she was still alive. He didn't come to her funeral because he was drinking cocktails on a beach." I turned back to the laptop. He's wrong about what happens next. I pulled up flight schedules. Portland to Miami, Miami to Mexico City. The timestamps match Bernard's movements. They'd left yesterday morning, hours before the funeral. While I was choosing which tie to wear, Bernard was boarding a plane. I grabbed a yellow legal pad from the drawer, drew a timeline in neat engineer's handwriting. Emily's death, Bernard's absence, Miami Post, Ethan's SOS, Mexico plan. The connections formed a pattern, not spontaneous, calculated. Judith watched me work. Her anger had shifted into something else. Uncertainty, maybe, or fear of what I was becoming. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "Get my grandson back." I didn't look up from the screen. "Then make Bernard wish he'd stayed for the funeral." I opened a new tab, typed, "Emergency Custody Oregon Child Abduction." 15 results loaded. I opened them all, scanning for relevant information. Jurisdiction issues, parental rights, international complications. The legal system moved slowly. Ethan didn't have time for slow. Judith's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then at me. "I should go. Let you think." I nodded. She hesitated at the doorway. "Orval, don't do anything crazy." "I won't." I met her eyes. "I'll do everything necessary." After she left, I sat in the quiet house. Emily's coffee mug still in the sink. Her jacket still on the chair. Her son still with the man who'd betrayed her. I clicked through more websites, read about Mexican extradition laws, read about private investigators who specialized in international cases, read about what happened when the legal system failed. My hands didn't shake anymore. They wouldn't shake again until this was finished. The afternoon had burned away while I researched. 6 hours of reading legal forums, scanning custody statutes, learning words like parens patriae and habeas corpus. My coffee had gone cold 3 times. I picked up my phone and dialed the Portland Police non-emergency line. The automated system cycled through options. I pressed 3 for family matters, waited. A woman's voice finally answered. "Portland Police, Officer Michaels speaking." I kept my voice steady. "My name is Orval Rice. My son-in-law took my 8-year-old grandson and is fleeing to Mexico. I need to report a child abduction." A pause, keys clicking. "Can you give me more details, sir?" I walked her through it. Emily's death, Bernard's absence from the funeral, the Facebook post, Ethan's text message, the flight to Mexico. More clicking, then, "Sir, I understand your concern, but legally the father has custody rights. Even if he's fleeing the country, you'd need a court order preventing that." Her tone shifted, sympathetic but firm. "I'd recommend contacting an attorney. This sounds like a custody dispute rather than a criminal abduction." A custody dispute. The words tasted wrong. "My grandson is terrified. I can give you the number for attorney referral services." I hung up, stared at the phone. The system wouldn't help. Not fast enough. Not for this. I opened a new browser tab, typed, "Family Law Attorney Portland Emergency Custody." The results loaded. I scanned past advertisements, past the big firms with generic photos. Found Margaret Owens halfway down the page. Solo practitioner, 20 years experience. Specialization, emergency guardian cases, grandparents' rights. I clicked through to reviews, 4.8 stars. Comments mentioned aggressive, doesn't back down, save my grandkids. Her office number was listed. I dialed before I could overthink it. Owens Law Office. A younger voice, professional. "I need to speak with Margaret Owens about an emergency custody case." "Ms. Owens doesn't take calls after 5. I can schedule. Tell her it's emergency custody, international child abduction. I'll pay whatever consultation costs." "Sir, I really can't." "Tell her a man skipped his wife's funeral to drink cocktails with his mistress in Miami, while his 8-year-old son texted his grandfather for help. Tell her that man is taking the boy to Mexico tonight or tomorrow. Tell her I have evidence." Silence. Then, "Hold, please." 60 seconds crawled by. I heard muffled voices. A new voice came on the line, older, direct. "This is Margaret Owens. You have 2 minutes." I gave her the summary. No wasted words. Emily's death, Bernard's flight, the social media post, Ethan's messages, the Mexico timeline. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "My office, tomorrow morning. Bring everything. Birth certificates, bank records, proof of Bernard's location. This will cost $500 for consultation. If I take your case, we're looking at $5,000 minimum. I'll pay it. Can you be here at 8 tomorrow morning? I'll be there at 7:30. Good. She gave me the address, Morrison Tower, 15th floor. Then, Mr. Rice, I've handled cases like this. You have maybe 48 hours before he crosses into Mexico. After that, everything gets exponentially harder. Understood. She hung up. I set the phone down, looked around Emily's office. I needed documents, evidence. Everything that would prove Bernard was unfit, that Ethan belonged with me. I walked to Emily's bedroom, pulled file boxes from her closet. She'd always been organized, learned it from her mother, labeled folders, medical, school, insurance, legal. I carried the boxes to the office, started sorting. Ethan's birth certificate, check. Vaccination records, check. School reports, straight A's, teacher comments about bright, eager student, check. My phone vibrated, unknown number again. Text message. We're at a hotel. Grandpa, I'm scared. My hands shook typing the response. Hold on, buddy. I'm coming for you. Don't let your dad see you texting. Stay safe. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, no reply. I set the phone down carefully, back to the documents. I printed Bernard's Facebook post, printed Kimberly's Instagram photos, pulled up bank statements showing the Miami charges, printed those too. My printer ran out of paper. I loaded more, kept printing. Around midnight, Judith called. I let it go to voicemail. She'd left around noon after I assured her I had a plan. Calling back now would waste time I didn't have. I spread everything across Emily's desk. Birth certificate on the left, Facebook post in the center, bank statements on the right. Then I saw the folder I'd missed, labeled insurance in Emily's neat handwriting. I opened it, life insurance policy, $250,000. Beneficiary, Bernard Rice. I scanned the pages, standard terms mostly. Death benefit payable within 60 days. Accidental death clause. Then I reached page 4, a clause about guardianship. I read it twice to be sure. In event primary beneficiary relinquishes or abandons guardianship of minor child, within 30 days of insured's death, death benefit shall transfer to alternate guardian listed below. The name typed underneath, Orville Rice. Emily had planned for this. Not just planned, she'd built a trap. If Bernard abandoned Ethan, he lost the money. All of it. I grabbed my yellow legal pad, wrote, insurance leverage, $250K, hinges on custody. The clock showed 3 in the morning. Margaret's office opened at 8, 5 hours. I laid out the documents in order. Ethan's birth certificate on the left, Bernard's Facebook post in the center, bank statement showing the Miami charges on the right. Behind them, printed emails between Bernard and Kimberly going back 6 months. I'd found those in Emily's deleted folder. She'd known more than she told me. I opened her laptop again and clicked on the folder labeled Insurance. I left Emily's house at 7. Documents in a leather folder my wife gave me 20 years ago. Downtown Portland at dawn looked empty. Streets slick with rain that had fallen overnight. I found parking on 3rd Avenue, fed the meter enough quarters for 3 hours, and took the elevator to the 15th floor. Morrison Tower smelled like carpet cleaner and ambition. Margaret Owen's office was at the end of the hall, frosted glass door with gold lettering. I arrived at 7:30. The waiting area was small, 4 chairs, a coffee table stacked with family law magazines I had no interest in reading. I sat with the leather folder on my lap and waited. At 7:45, the inner door opened. A woman emerged, 50s, gray hair cut to her shoulders, navy suit that meant business. Reading glasses hung from a chain around her neck. Mr. Rice? Her handshake was firm. You're early. I like that. Come in. Her office wasn't fancy. Bookshelves lined 2 walls, packed with legal volumes. The other walls held framed photos, children, mostly, with thank you notes attached. I recognized the aesthetic. These were victories. She gestured to a conference table near the window. Let's see what you brought. I opened the folder, slid documents across to her one at a time. Birth certificate. She nodded, examined it. Bank statements showing charges in Miami. She studied those longer. Screenshots from social media, Bernard's Facebook post made during my daughter's funeral. Her eyebrows rose. She read the caption, "The life I dreamed of." Set it down carefully. Text messages from my grandson. She read those twice. Her jaw tightened. And this. I pushed the life insurance policy across. Found it at 3 this morning. Margaret picked it up. Read page 1, Flipped to page 2, then page 4. She stopped, pulled out a yellow highlighter from her desk drawer, and marked the guardianship clause. She looked up at me. Your daughter was smarter than Bernard knew. She was always smart. This policy changes everything. Margaret set down the highlighter. If you get custody, Bernard loses $250,000. Money motivates behavior. I don't want his money, I said. I want my grandson safe. The court doesn't care what we want. It cares what's best for the child. Our job is making them see that's you, not Bernard. Then let's make them see it. She pulled her laptop closer. Start from the beginning, Emily's death, the funeral, everything Bernard did or didn't do. I need a timeline. I walked her through it. Emily's accident 3 days ago. The funeral yesterday morning, Bernard's absence, the empty front row seat. Ethan's questions I couldn't answer. The Facebook post timed exactly during the service. Kimberly Henderson from 3 houses down. The Miami hotel. The flights to Mexico City. Margaret typed while I talked, occasionally stopping me. Wait, back up. He posted that photo during the funeral service? What time exactly? 2:47 p.m., I checked the timestamp. She made a note. That plays badly for him. We worked for 90 minutes. Margaret drafted the emergency petition while I filled in details. Bernard's exact location based on Kimberly's Instagram geotag. The flight patterns to Mexico. Ethan's frightened messages. She picked up her desk phone, dialed without looking at the keypad. This is Margaret Owens. I need emergency family court hearing today or tomorrow. International parental flight risk. She paused, listening. Yes, I'll hold. She covered the mouthpiece. Judge Hanson is on duty this week. He moves fast. The hold music crackled through the speaker. She kept the phone to her ear, used her free hand to type more notes. The music stopped. Yes, I'm here. Margaret grabbed a pen. Tomorrow morning works. 8 o'clock. Thank you. She hung up, turned to me. We got lucky. Judge Hanson will hear the emergency motion tomorrow morning. What do I need to do? Read this tonight. She printed the petition, handed me a copy. Memorize it. Judge Hanson asks tough questions. You'll need answers ready. I scanned the first page. Legal language, but the story was clear. Bernard Rice abandoned his son's emotional needs to pursue extramarital relationship. Poses immediate flight risk. Requests temporary emergency custody to Orval Rice, maternal grandfather. Will this work? I asked. Margaret leaned back in her chair. Mr. Rice, I won't lie. Biological fathers have strong custody presumption. But a father who abandons his child's mother's funeral to vacation with his mistress? She tapped the Facebook screenshot. That plays badly. Will it play badly enough? Judge Hanson has 3 grandchildren. He's seen this pattern before. Fathers who check out emotionally while mothers hold everything together. She pulled off her reading glasses. The insurance policy is our leverage, and this social media evidence is remarkable. Most people aren't stupid enough to document their abandonment in real time. What happens if we lose? Then Bernard gets on a plane with Ethan, crosses into Mexico, and extradition becomes a nightmare. She put the glasses back on. But we're not losing, not if you show up tomorrow and tell the truth. Her paralegal knocked, entered. Young woman, efficient movements. Margaret handed her a stack of papers. File these at the courthouse. Priority. The paralegal left. Margaret turned back to me. One more thing. Judge Hanson will ask why Emily named you alternate guardian on this policy. Be ready with an answer. Because she knew Bernard would do exactly what he's doing now, I said. She knew he'd run. Margaret smiled, thin, satisfied. That's exactly what you tell him. She walked me to the door, handed me a receipt for $500 I'd paid by check. Get some sleep, Mr. Rice. Tomorrow you'll need to be sharp. I will. And Mr. Rice? She met my eyes. Your daughter built a safety net even while falling. She trusted you to catch her son. Let's make sure we do. I walked to my car with the petition copy folded in my jacket pocket. The hearing was set for 8 tomorrow morning, 16 hours. I pulled out my phone and opened the text thread with Ethan's messages. The last one, from yesterday. Grandpa, I'm scared, I typed. Court hearing tomorrow morning. Hold on one more day. I'm bringing you home. I hit send before wondering if he'd even see it. Then my phone rang. Unknown number, Texas area code. I answered. The voice on the phone was tired, professional. Mr. Rice, this is Daniel Cortez, night manager at the Riverside Inn in Houston. Your grandson tried using our lobby phone again around 11. His father caught him before he could dial out. I thought you should know. I thanked him, asked if Ethan seemed okay. Cortez hesitated, then said, "The boy looks scared." I hung up and drove home with my jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached. I spent the evening memorizing Margaret's petition. Couldn't sleep. At dawn, I drove back downtown, found the same parking spot on 3rd Avenue, and waited on the courthouse bench for Margaret to arrive. She appeared at 7:30, briefcase in hand, hair pulled back severely. Ready? Yes. The courtroom doors opened at exactly 8. Judge Robert Hanson's courtroom looked like every other. Wood paneling, American flag, raised bench that made everyone else feel smaller. I sat in the first row of the gallery while Margaret approached the defense table. The bailiff called, "Emergency petition, Rice versus Bernard, regarding minor child, Ethan Bernard Rice." A young man in an ill-fitting suit hurried through the side door. Public defender, I realized, appointed to represent Bernard's absence. Judge Hanson entered, around 60, gray hair, reading glasses perched on his nose. Everyone stood. "Be seated." His voice carried authority without volume. "Ms. Owens, your client seeks emergency custody. On what grounds?" Margaret stood. "Parental abandonment, Your Honor." Mr. Bernard failed to attend his wife's funeral, instead posting vacation photos with another woman, and is currently fleeing to Mexico with the minor child. The public defender, name badge read Collins, stood awkwardly. "Your Honor, grief manifests differently for different people. My client shouldn't be penalized for his coping mechanisms." Coping mechanisms don't include removing a traumatized 8-year-old from his support system 3 days after his mother's death. Margaret's tone could have cut glass. She spread exhibits across the table, color-coded tabs, exactly like she'd prepared them. Exhibit A, social media post made during the funeral service. Exhibit B, bank statements showing unauthorized withdrawals and travel expenses. Exhibit C, airline records confirming tickets toward Mexican border. Exhibit D, life insurance policy with guardianship clause. Judge Hanson picked up the Facebook printout, studied it. "This was posted during the funeral service?" "Yes, Your Honor, at 2:47 p.m. while Mr. Rice was delivering his daughter's eulogy." "Noted." He set it down, picked up the airline records. "How did you obtain these?" "Contact at Delta, Your Honor. $200 for information retrieval. The records are accurate." Collins shuffled his papers. "Your Honor, Mr. Bernard has every legal right to travel with his son." "Not without notice to family members, Your Honor." Margaret didn't miss a beat. "Not when he's emptied joint bank accounts and purchased one-way tickets to a non-extradition destination." The judge studied the insurance policy, read page 4 twice, looked at me over his glasses. "Mr. Rice, stand please." I stood. My legs felt solid. "Good. You're the maternal grandfather?" "Yes, Your Honor." "You've been involved in this child's life?" "I've lived in my daughter's house for 5 years, helped raise Ethan since he was 3. He nodded, sat back. The courtroom went silent except for the clock ticking above the door. 3 minutes passed. Hanson read every document Margaret had submitted. I watched his face, trying to read his thoughts. Impossible. Finally, he looked up. "I'm issuing a 30-day temporary custody order. Mr. Bernard is prohibited from removing the minor child from United States territory. Border protection will be notified." He turned to the bailiff. "Prepare the detention order." My chest loosened. First breath in what felt like hours. Collins tried once more. "Your Honor, my client's parental rights are not absolute when the parent demonstrates abandonment and flight risk." Hanson signed the order with a heavy pen. "Mr. Bernard is ordered to appear at full hearing April 15th. This court is adjourned." The gavel struck wood. Margaret turned to me, handed me a copy of the order, still warm from the bailiff's printer. "Give this to Border Protection. They need it within the hour." I walked down the courthouse steps into morning sunlight, pulled out my phone before reaching the sidewalk. Margaret had written a number on the back of her business card. I dialed. "Customs and Border Protection tip line. My name is Orville Rice. I have a court order requiring detention of a man attempting to cross into Mexico with a minor child." "One moment, sir." "Hold music. Tinny, patriotic." Margaret appeared beside me. "The order's good for 30 days, she said. "But if Bernard crosses that border before they stop him?" I know. I cut her off. The hold music ended. New voice. Mr. Rice, we've received the court order electronically from the courthouse. All southern border checkpoints have been notified. If Mr. Bernard attempts to cross, we'll detain him. I checked my watch. If Bernard was driving from Texas, he could reach the border in 5 hours. I looked at Margaret. I need to be there when they stop him. Margaret stared at me. Orval, let Border Protection handle this. You don't need to chase him. I'm not chasing him. I was already searching flights on my phone. I'm collecting my grandson. You're 64 years old. You just want a court order. Let the system takes time. I found a flight. Portland to El Paso, departing in 2 hours. Last minute fare. $847. I booked it. Ethan doesn't have time. She opened her mouth, closed it, nodded once. Call me when you land. I caught a taxi to PDX, bought the ticket at the gate. 3 hours later, I landed in El Paso's desert heat. The rental car smelled like cigarettes and air freshener. I drove west on Interstate 10, then south on Highway 136 toward the border. The landscape turned to scrub and dust. Santa Teresa Port of Entry sat 32 miles from El Paso. Smaller crossing, less traffic. If Bernard wanted to slip through unnoticed, he'd choose this one. I parked in the visitor lot near the inspection station at 5 in the afternoon. The CBP building was cinder block and efficiency. Inside, I showed the court order to a supervisor named Martinez, woman in her 50s, sharp eyes. She read it carefully, made photocopies. Mr. Rice, I understand your urgency, but we may not intercept him tonight. Could be tomorrow, could be next week. I'll wait, however long it takes. She entered information into her computer. We've got it flagged. Any vehicle with a child matching this description gets pulled for secondary inspection. I'll call if anything develops. I returned to the rental car, bought coffee from a gas station across the highway, waited. The desert night turned cold. I kept the engine running for heat, then turned it off to save gas. On, off. Hours blurred. Headlights approached the border checkpoint. Each set might be Bernard. I counted them. 37 vehicles between sunset and midnight. 62 between midnight and dawn. At 6 in the morning, my phone rang. Mr. Rice, Officer Delgado here. We've got a man matching your description, traveling with a woman and a child, trying to cross at this station. Can you come to the processing office? I was out of the car before he finished talking. The processing office occupied a separate building behind the main checkpoint. Fluorescent lights, plastic chairs, vending machine humming in the corner. I walked through security and saw Bernard immediately. He sat rigid in a chair, red-faced, gesturing at Officer Delgado. Kimberly was beside him, mascara streaked, arguing with another officer. Then I saw Ethan, small, pressed into the corner near the vending machine like he was trying to disappear, wearing clothes that looked slept in. His eyes met mine. I crossed the room, knelt in front of him, opened my arms. He launched himself at me. Thin arms wrapped around my neck. His whole body shook. Bernard stood. Orval, you have no right. The court can't just take my son. I looked at him over Ethan's head. The court can, and it did. You lost him when you posted beach photos while I buried your wife. His face went purple. You manipulative... Sir, step back. Officer Delgado moved between us. There's a court order. We're executing it. Kimberly's voice cut through. This is harassment. We weren't doing anything wrong. Ma'am, there's a court order prohibiting Mr. Bernard from leaving the country with the minor child. Delgado's patience sounded thin. We're required to enforce it. I stood, still holding Ethan. He buried his face in my shoulder. Bernard jabbed a finger at me. This isn't over. I'll fight this. He's my son. He's Emily's son. My voice came out cold, steady. You were dancing on her grave while he cried for his mother. Bernard lunged forward. Delgado grabbed his arm. Sir, you're already in violation of a court order. Don't make this worse. They processed paperwork for 90 minutes, transferred custody officially. Bernard would spend 24 hours in detention, then be released with orders to appear in Portland for the full hearing. Kimberly cried the entire time. Blame me, blame the officers, blamed everyone except the man who'd stolen a grieving child. Finally, Delgado handed me release papers. You're free to go, Mr. Rice. Keep the boy close. I will. Ethan hadn't let go of my hand since we left the CBP office. I buckled him into the rental car's back seat. Kimberly's voice still echoed from the building behind us, shrill accusations bouncing off concrete walls. I started the engine. Ethan spoke for the first time in full sentences. Dad said we were going on an adventure. He said Mom wouldn't have wanted me to be sad. I gripped the steering wheel. Your mom wanted you to be safe. That's what matters. I pulled onto the highway heading north. The border disappeared in the rearview mirror. My phone buzzed. Text from Margaret. Did you get him? I glanced at Ethan in the mirror. He'd fallen asleep already, exhausted. I texted back with one hand, coming home. But I knew this wasn't over. Bernard would fight, and I needed to be ready. 2 weeks after bringing Ethan home, we'd found a rhythm. Breakfast at 7, school bus at 7:45, homework after dinner. Small routines that felt like reconstruction. Ethan was enrolled at Bridgeport Elementary, 4th grade. His teacher called him quiet but attentive. Progress, I told myself. Healing takes time. That Tuesday morning, I was scrambling eggs when the doorbell rang. Ethan looked up from his cereal, eyes widening. He's still startled at unexpected sounds. It's okay, I said. Probably just mail. But the mail carrier didn't ring doorbells. A young man in business casual stood on my porch. He thrust an envelope into my hands. You've been served. He walked away before I could respond. Inside, legal documents, Bernard's counter petition. Attorney letterhead. Richard Vance, family law specialist. I read standing in the doorway. The language was aggressive, clinical. Petitioner manipulated court proceedings. Respondent has parental rights under Oregon law. Elderly petitioner cannot adequately provide long-term care for minor child. Elderly. The word stuck like a splinter. I waited until Ethan left for the bus before calling Margaret. They filed, I said. Expected. Who's representing him? Richard Vance. She swore quietly. Expensive. Very expensive. Kimberly's parents must be funding this. Can he win? He'll try. Vance is good, but so am I. The hearing came 2 days later. I wore my navy suit, the one I'd worn to Emily's funeral. Bernard sat across the aisle looking polished. Haircut, pressed shirt, practiced expression of wounded fatherhood. Vance beside him projected expensive confidence with his tailored suit and leather briefcase. Judge Hanson presided again. Same courtroom, different stakes. Vance stood. Your Honor, my client seeks to overturn the temporary order that separated him from his son. Mr. Bernard has been a devoted father, and the court's previous ruling was based on incomplete information and emotional manipulation. Margaret countered immediately. Mr. Bernard abandoned his son at his mother's funeral to vacation with his mistress. That's not incomplete information. That's documented fact. Grief manifests differently. Your Honor, Margaret cut him off, we're not here to debate grief. We're here to determine what's best for an 8-year-old child who's already lost his mother. Vance changed tactics, turned to me. Mr. Rice, you're 64 years old. How many years do you realistically expect to be physically capable of raising an 8-year-old child? I kept my voice level. As many as needed. Unlike his father, I'm not planning to abandon him. But you're a single man in your 60s. You have health issues? I take medication for cardiac arrhythmia, controlled condition. My cardiologist can confirm. Vance smiled thinly. Mr. Rice takes medication for cardiac arrhythmia. What happens to this child if his guardian suffers a cardiac event? Margaret stood. Mr. Rice's cardiologist confirms his condition is stable and well managed. Unlike Mr. Bernard's emotional stability, which led him to flee the country with a traumatized child. Judge Hanson raised a hand. I'm ordering psychological evaluation of the minor child and home inspections of both households. We'll reconvene after those reports are filed. 3 weeks of invasive assessment followed. A court-appointed psychologist, Dr. Sarah Chen, spent 3 hours with Ethan over 2 sessions. I waited in the hallway during his interviews, trying not to listen through the door, but voices carried. Do you feel safe with your grandfather? Yes. What about your father? Do you want to see him? Long pause. I don't know. He scares me now. Why does he scare you? Because he left. Mom died, and he just left. I walked to the water fountain, composed myself. The home inspector came on a Thursday afternoon while Ethan was at school. She measured rooms, checked smoke detectors, photographed Ethan's bedroom, the one I decorated with his belongings from Bernard's house. She took notes constantly. I wrote a check for $3,500, court-appointed evaluation service. Watched my savings account deplete. Dr. Chen's report arrived a week later. Margaret read the key section aloud in her office. The minor child exhibits clear anxiety when discussing his father, describing feeling scared and confused. In contrast, he demonstrates secure attachment to his grandfather, stating unprompted, "Grandpa makes me feel safe." "That's good," Margaret said. "That's very good." But Vance wasn't finished. He filed another motion. Financial disclosure. Margaret tapped her pen on the desk. "He's looking for something. Why does Bernard suddenly care about your finances?" I thought about the insurance policy. The $250,000 frozen by Pacific Life, pending custody resolution. "Because it's not about Ethan," I said slowly. "It never was. It's about the money." Margaret stopped tapping. "Then, let's give him what he's looking for. We'll request financial disclosure from Bernard, too. Let's see how he spent Emily's money while she was dying." She pulled up a court form on her computer. I watched her type. Outside her office window, Portland rain started falling. The war was escalating. The letter from Pacific Life Insurance Company arrived on a Tuesday. Official letterhead, certified mail signature required. I read it twice. Death benefit payment of $250,000 suspended pending resolution of custody dispute and beneficiary determination. Company cannot proceed with payment until legal standing of alternate guardian clause is established through court proceedings. My hands shook, not from anger, from understanding. Bernard wasn't fighting for Ethan. He was fighting for $250,000. I drove straight to Margaret's office, walked in without calling ahead, put the letter on her desk. She read it, looked up. "Now we know what he really wants. Can we use this?" "Absolutely." She pulled out her laptop. "If he wants financial disclosure, we'll bury him in it." Margaret drafted the subpoena that evening, filed it the next morning. 7 years of Bernard's financial records, credit cards, bank accounts, loan applications, spending patterns. When the records arrived 2 weeks later, we spread them across her conference table. Spreadsheets, highlighters, calculator. The timeline revealed itself like a crime scene photograph developing. April 2nd, cash advance, $15,000, Chase joint credit card. Emily and Bernard's account. 3 days before Emily's accident. Merchant, Miami Beach Resort Hotel. Merchant. American Airlines, 2 tickets. Margaret circled the date with red marker. He booked the trip before she died. I stared at the numbers. He was already planning to leave her. The charges continued. Miami restaurants, beach club membership for Kimberly Henderson, rental car upgrade, shopping sprees at Lincoln Road, all on Emily's credit card. All while I was planning my daughter's funeral. The May hearing felt different, colder. Margaret projected the bank statements on the courtroom screen, line by line. Each charge displayed for Judge Hanson to see. Bernard squirmed in his seat. Vance whispered urgently to him. Judge Hanson studied the projection. "Mr. Bernard, can you explain why you needed $15,000 for a Miami vacation immediately following your wife's death?" Bernard's voice came out hoarse. I couldn't handle being in Portland. Everything reminded me of Emily. "Including your 8-year-old son?" Silence. Vance stood. "Your Honor, my client was grieving. People process loss differently. The expenditures in question represent his attempt to cope with overwhelming tragedy." Margaret's response was surgical. "Overwhelming tragedy he planned before his wife even died, judging by the booking dates." She clicked to the next slide. "April 2nd, Your Honor. Emily Rice died April 5th. Mr. Bernard booked his escape 3 days early, with his wife's money, for himself and his mistress." The courtroom went quiet. Judge Hanson leaned forward. "Ms. Owens, you're suggesting premeditation?" "I'm suggesting Mr. Bernard was ready to leave his wife regardless of what happened on April 5th. The accident simply accelerated his timeline." Bernard half rose from his chair. "That's not—" "Sit down, Mr. Bernard." Hanson's voice carried steel. The judge turned to me. "Mr. Rice, do you wish to address the court?" I stood, looked directly at Bernard. "Your Honor, I've spent 2 months trying to understand how a man skips his wife's funeral. Now I know." I paused. Let the words settle. Grief doesn't look like a beach cocktail with your mistress. Betrayal does. Bernard's face flushed red. He spent my daughter's money while she was dying. He abandoned her son while she was buried. This isn't grief, it's opportunism. The courtroom stayed silent. Judge Hanson took extensive notes. Finally, I'm postponing my decision until June. Both parties will have opportunity for closing arguments. Court adjourned. Margaret met me in the hallway afterward. Hanson's taking this seriously. The financial evidence mattered. Will it be enough? In Oregon, character matters. And we just showed his character clearly. I drove to the parking garage, sat in my car for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, processing the depth of it. Not just adultery, not just abandonment, calculated financial exploitation of his dying wife. Emily had known. She'd built protections, the insurance clause, the alternate guardian designation. What else had she hidden from him? Margaret walked me to the elevator later that afternoon. The decision comes in June. Based on what Hanson saw today, I think we're in good position. I pressed the button. But you can't guarantee it. Nothing's guaranteed in family court. Biological parents have strong presumption. The elevator arrived. I stepped in. Then we need more. Bernard's spending reveals character, but Vance will spin it. What else did Emily leave behind? Margaret held the door. What do you mean? Emily knew what Bernard was. She built the insurance protection. She named me guardian. The elevator dinged impatiently. What else did she hide from him? What else might be in her documents? Margaret's eyes sharpened. Her will. We used the insurance policy and the custody designation, but we never read the whole will. Then let's read it. The elevator door closed. I had 3 weeks until Judge Hanson's decision. Time enough to find whatever final protection Emily had left for her son. I drove home from Margaret's office with one thought. Read the will. Every word. Back at the house, I went straight to the file cabinet. Pulled out the manila folder labeled Emily Legal Documents. Inside, the will I'd glanced at weeks ago, focused only on the insurance policy. I'd missed the rest. I spread it across the kitchen table under the overhead light. The document was dated August 2023, 18 months before Emily died, when she and Bernard were supposedly happy. I read slowly. Page 3, paragraph 2. In the event of my death, I designate my father, Orval Rice, as legal guardian of my minor child, Ethan Bernard Rice. My breath caught. Page 5, property clause. The real property located at 4527 Hawthorne Boulevard, Portland, Oregon, currently held as joint tenancy with Bernard Rice, shall be transferred to irrevocable trust for the benefit of Ethan Bernard Rice until age 21, with Orval Rice serving as trustee. Emily had protected everything, her son, her house, her son's future. 2 years ago, when Ethan was 6, when Bernard was still playing devoted father. But she'd seen something. A crack in the foundation. I pulled out my phone, photographed every page, emailed them to Margaret at midnight with the subject line, "Found it, Emily's guardian designation." Then I read the will 3 more times. At 7 the next morning, I drove to Margaret's office carrying the original in a manila envelope, handled it carefully. This was precious ammunition. Margaret read it twice, called the notary public, whose stamp appeared on the document, verified the witnesses, Emily's co-worker, Emily's college friend, both available to testify. She looked up. This will is a legal nuclear weapon, properly executed, witnessed, notarized, filed with the county. Bernard can challenge it, but he'd need to prove undue influence or mental incapacity. And Emily was 33, healthy and employed when she signed this. Why didn't I read this more carefully before? Because you were focused on the insurance. But this is better. This is Emily speaking from beyond, telling the court exactly what she wanted. She filed it as evidence that afternoon. Vance responded within 48 hours. Motion to exclude the will. Claims of undue influence and questionable circumstances. Margaret's response was surgical. Witnesses, notary verification, county filing records. The will stood. Judge Hanson scheduled the final hearing for mid-June. 3 days before the hearing, I was making lunch for Ethan when the doorbell rang, insistently, multiple times. Through the window, I saw Bernard, Kimberly beside him, 2 Portland police officers behind them. I opened the door. The senior officer spoke first. Mr. Rice, we received a call about parental interference with custody. I walked to my desk, retrieved the temporary custody order, handed it to him. He read it, turned to Bernard. Sir, Mr. Rice has a valid temporary custody order from Multnomah County Family Court. You're not permitted to approach this residence or contact the child without court permission. Bernard's face went purple. That order is fraudulent. He manipulated the judge. That's for the court to decide. Right now, you need to leave this property. Bernard jabbed a finger at me. This isn't over, Orval. The judge will see through your lies. I stood in the doorway, calm. The judge will see Emily's will, her words, her choice. She chose me to protect her son from you. She never would have. She did, 2 years ago. Think about what that means. Kimberly grabbed Bernard's arm, pulling him toward the street. He kept shouting until they reached the car. After they left, I found Ethan standing at his bedroom window, small figure watching his father drive away. I sat beside him on the bed. You okay? Grandpa, I don't want to go back to him. Ever. You won't. Your mother made sure of that. She loved you enough to plan for this. He looked at me. She knew? She knew you'd need protection, and she trusted me to give it to you. The rest of the week, I prepared. Margaret and I reviewed every document, every photo, every piece of evidence. Organized it chronologically. The story was clear. The final hearing was scheduled for Wednesday, 9 in the morning. Tuesday night, I sat in Emily's home office reviewing my testimony notes. Through the window, I watched Ethan in the backyard, throwing a tennis ball for the neighbor's dog through the fence. Normal kid behavior. That's what Emily wanted for him. Normal, safe, stable. My phone buzzed, text from Margaret. Vance filed one more motion, requesting postponement due to new evidence. Judge denied it. We're on for Wednesday 9 a.m. I texted back, good. Then added, Emily's will ends this. Margaret replied immediately, Emily's will already ended it. Wednesday just makes it official. I looked at the photo on my desk. Emily at Ethan's 6th birthday, the year she wrote her will. She was smiling, but I saw it now, the worry in her eyes. She'd known, and she'd trusted me to finish what she started. Wednesday morning, Ethan ate cereal while I drank coffee. Normal routine. Mr. Peterson wants to see my bridge project today, he said between bites. He says it might be good enough for the district science fair. That's great, buddy. Will you help me finish the supports tonight? Of course. I drove him to school, watched him disappear into Bridgeport Elementary with his backpack, then headed downtown. The courthouse parking garage was half full. I found a spot on the 3rd level, same place I'd parked months ago for the emergency hearing, back when this started. Margaret met me outside the courtroom. Ready? Yes. Judge Hanson's courtroom was packed. Family court attracts observers, law students, social workers, people dealing with their own custody battles. We sat at the plaintiff's table. Bernard and Vance sat across the aisle. Bernard looked polished, rehearsed, but his hands shook slightly. At 9 sharp, Judge Hanson entered, black robe flowing, reading glasses in place, thick folder of case documents. He nodded to both tables. Bailiff, close the doors. I'll hear closing statements before retiring to chambers. Margaret stood, spoke for 20 minutes, methodical timeline, funeral absence, Miami Post, border flight. Financial exploitation, psychological evaluation, Emily's will. Each piece building a comprehensive picture. She ended with Emily's words. In the event of my death, I designate my father, Orval Rice, as legal guardian. Vance's closing emphasized biological parent presumption, claimed I'd manipulated Emily, suggested my age-limited parenting capacity. His arguments sounded hollow against months of documented evidence. Judge Hanson retired to chambers at 10:30. 2 hours crawled by. Margaret and I sat in the hallway. Said nothing. Nothing left to say. At 12:30, the bailiff summoned us back. Judge Hanson carried papers, adjusted his reading glasses. Case number FL 2025-04387, in the matter of custody of Ethan Bernard Rice. His voice was measured, professional. After reviewing all evidence, testimony, expert evaluations, and legal documents, this court finds that the biological father, Bernard Rice, has demonstrated a pattern of irresponsible behavior, including abandonment of parental duties during family crisis, emotional neglect of minor child, and apparent intent to exploit child custody for financial gain. He paused, turned a page. The court further finds that Emily Rice's will, properly executed and notarized, clearly expressed her wish that her father serve as guardian should she predecease the child's majority. Bernard gripped the table edge. Therefore, this court grants permanent full custody of minor child Ethan Bernard Rice to his grandfather, Orval Rice. The courtroom went absolutely silent. The biological father retains parental rights limited to supervised visitation twice monthly. Supervision provided by court-appointed social worker. Mr. Bernard may petition for modification after demonstrating sustained pattern of responsible behavior for minimum 18 months. Bernard stood, face red. "You took my son. This is corruption. He manipulated everyone." I rose slowly, looked directly at him. "No, you lost him yourself the moment you chose a beach cocktail over your wife's funeral, the moment you chose your mistress over your grieving son." Judge Hanson banged his gavel. "Mr. Bernard, control yourself, or you'll be held in contempt." Bernard kept shouting, "He poisoned my son against me." "Mr. Bernard, your own actions documented in these proceedings speak to your character. This hearing is concluded." I turned, walked down the aisle toward the doors. Margaret beside me, left Bernard shouting behind. Outside, spring air, Portland sun breaking through clouds. "Congratulations," Margaret said. "It's over. Thank you for everything." That afternoon, I picked up Ethan from school. He spotted my car, waved, ran over, threw his backpack in first, then himself. "Mr. Peterson says my science project on engineering bridges is the best in class. Can you help me finish it tonight?" I smiled. "Of course. Your mom would be proud. She loved bridges." He went quiet. "I wish she could see it. She can, buddy. I promise you she can." The following Wednesday, a letter arrived. Plain envelope. Pacific Life Insurance Company. I opened it at the kitchen table. "Dear Mr. Rice, per Multnomah County Court Order, dated June 18th, 2025, and in accordance with policy provisions regarding alternate guardian designation, we have transferred death benefit of $250,000 to the Ethan Rice Trust account, trustee Orval Rice. This matter is now closed." I read it twice, then walked to the mantel where Emily's photo sat, touched the frame gently. "He's safe now," I whispered. I set the letter beside her photo. Outside, Portland summer was arriving, roses blooming, longer days, school year ending soon. Ethan was in the living room building his bridge model with toothpicks and glue, tongue between his teeth in concentration, exactly like Emily used to do. Through the window, I saw Bernard's car pass slowly on the street, then accelerate away. His supervised visit started next week, 2 hours, twice monthly. A social worker taking notes the entire time. He'd have to earn back what he'd thrown away. The phone rang. Margaret. "Congratulations, it's official. Insurance company closed the case. $250,000 in trust for Ethan's future. Thank you for everything." "Thank Emily. She built this protection before any of us knew it was needed." After we hung up, I stood watching Ethan work. His bridge was taking shape, small but sturdy, built on solid foundations, good engineering. Emily would approve. I didn't feel victorious, didn't feel righteous, just felt resolved. My daughter had asked one thing of me: keep her son safe. Mission accomplished. The rest, Bernard's supervised visits, Kimberly's disappointed parents, the money Bernard would never see, that wasn't revenge. That was justice. And sometimes, justice is enough. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share.